Today's lesson is on LS2-3, the Kaneohe Fishpond PowerPoint. The next 3 days is actually going to be using this PowerPoint. The page 56 is pretty important, or you actually get that through the Google Classroom, so you should be able to access that there. So we're going to be talking about the Kaneohe Fishpond, and it's a great example of how food webs work, especially here in Hawaii. The benchmark, of course, is explaining how energy moves through food webs. And you'll be expected to create a food web based on the information from the fish pond. So what are fish ponds? You probably recognize this picture over here. It's probably in your social studies classes. You might have learned it in 4th grade. And what this is called is it's a ahupua'a. And in Hawaii, instead of having cities or towns, they would have these land divisions that would stretch from the ocean to the mountains. And why was that important was because it included everything they needed to live. You get fish from the oceans, you can get wood to build your houses from the trees, there's the taro patches, and then if you notice in the corner here, there's a special little thing here. It's a fish pond, and here are some real pictures of fish ponds in Hawaii. Okay? And why these are important is it's kind of salty because you get the ocean water coming in from here, and then you get this really nice nutritious water from the taro patches, and so you get really good water here. And the Hawaiians did something very clever. They made something here called makaha, and makaha means gate. And these gates were situated right here at the edges of the fish pond, right there. And they were very clever because what they would do was it would allow the small fish in. And if you think about it, if the small fish come in, they get protected so they don't get eaten. The small fish get in, they get to eat whatever they want here, and they get fatter and fatter and fatter, and they get so fat that they can't leave anymore because they can't fit through the makaha. So essentially the fish pond was a refrigerator, so it allowed the Hawaiians to have fresh fish all through the year. Now, unfortunately, there wasn't enough fish for the entire village, so guess who gets to eat them? Yep, the ali'i. So the ali'i would get fresh fish whenever they wanted, whereas everyone else would have to get in their boats and go catch their own fish and stuff like that. But it's a pretty smart idea. Yeah. So this is what we talked about, so you should take notes on page 57 about this. So some words to know are ahupua'a, which is the land division, the local ia, which is a fish pond, and then the makaha, which are the gates. So in Kaneohe, there's this really nice fish pond there. It's actually open. You can go and see it. Let me see. You can actually go see it and help out. It's a good volunteer opportunity. So the website I put into the PowerPoint as well. And over here you can do a virtual tour. Okay. And so this is their meeting place. And then they would build the walls out of stone, so people actually help collect the stones and set them up and stuff like that. And there's the fish pond. So once you get to the fish pond, you'll see that's the fish pond. So this is kind of salty water with fresh water from the mountains, and then this is the bay. And what's really fun is after you get really dirty doing whatever you're going to do over there, you come over here and you clean off in the bay and stuff like that. One of the biggest jobs there is to clean the fish pond from of like invasive limu that shouldn't be there because it just overgrows and stuff like that. So it's really fun. You get to go in the water and pick it all up. Another thing that they really need help with is to clear the mangroves. Mangroves are these wonderful trees actually that can live in salt water, but they're not from Hawaii. And so what they grew all over. So when I first started volunteering here, all of this was mangrove forest. And over the 15 years, they've cut it back. So another one really fun thing is to like be in the mud over here and take out the baby mangrove pods and stuff like that. Here's some other fish ponds in Hawaii. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. What's really sad was this one over here, when they first started cleaning it 25 years ago. uh, I mean, think about what the community did. They saw this big hole in the ground. So what they do, they threw trash in it, and garbage, and their old refrigerators and their old cars and stuff like that. So over the 25 years, they cleaned this up, and they've done that in many fish ponds all over Hawaii, which is really nice. Yeah. Okay. So at that fish pond, there's this placard, and when I first started teaching 14 years ago, and I saw this placard, it was wonderful because it explained exactly what we learned, yeah, for food webs. So let's read the placard then. We have life in a fish pond. The fish pond is an ecosystem comprised of animals, plants, and non-living elements such as water, soil, air, and minerals. Microscopic plants, phytoplankton, and limu, seaweed, convert sunlight into food. These are eaten by tiny animals, zooplankton, and herbivorous plant-eating fish such as ama, the striped mullet, the ava, milkfish, and poalu, yellowfin surgeonfish. These fish may be consumed by carnivores, meat eaters, such as kaku, barracuda, papio, young jack trevally, and puhi, moray eel. Papai, crabs are the major scavengers. Bacteria and fungi are also break down dead organisms, returning the raw materials to the system for reuse. Hawaiians manage their fish ponds carefully to keep this cycle in balance. Since all parts of this food web are interconnected, a change in the environment may have an impact on the productivity of the fish pond. So as you can see, this is a really good placard because it really shows how each organism has a different role in the fish pond, and that it's really important to keep balance of the organisms. If you don't have the balance, the whole fish pond can collapse. Right. So what today's lesson is for you to do is to create a food web. And so what I did was I created a Kaneohe fish pond chart over here. These are the organisms that we read about, and each organism then has things that it eats. So that's what the second column is, the prey food, what it eats. So the ama eats limu and zooplankton. Limu doesn't eat anything, so they use sunlight. And then the puhi will eat the ava and the poalu. The third column is what eats it. So the ama gets eaten by the papio, the young jack trevally, or the bacteria and fungus. They don't get eaten by anything, so they, I guess, just are there. But the kaku is a top consumer, so it doesn't get eaten by anything. And then the last thing is the trophic type. So is it a producer, like the limu and the phytoplankton? Is it a primary consumer, like the poalu, or is it a top consumer, like the kaku? So this is something that you should be able to build for your endangered species. So how do we do this is, in your composition book, you can draw it out. I would start with the phytoplankton, go to the zooplankton, right? From there, the zooplankton gets eaten by three things. So over here it says zooplankton gets eaten by ama, ava, and poalu. So I put the ama, ava, and poalu. And then from there, you choose maybe the ama. So let's see, what does the ama eat? Ama eats limu and zooplankton. So it already has a zooplankton, but I don't have a limu, so I have to add a limu, and then I attach it to ama. And as you can see, you get more and more arrows, and you just kind of keep double checking to see if you have everything. So the ama eats the zooplankton and limu, very good, stuff like that. And finally, don't forget the labels and the keys and stuff like that. So how do you do this? Well, you need to go to page 56 in Google Slides. What I did was, I'm pretty sure I made it so that you get your own copy, but if I made a mistake, then you have to make a copy again. And I put the reading there, I put the chart there, and then I helped you out by putting the animal pictures if you want. The tricky thing is you need to know which one's which. So this is the ama, this is the ava, and this is the poalu. So what did we start with? We started with the phytoplankton. So I'm going to move these around, and here's the phytoplankton. So put the phytoplankton over here. And what ate the phytoplankton was the zooplankton. So we'll put the zooplankton here, and then we need an arrow. So we can add an arrow from the phytoplankton to the zooplankton, and I like to make the arrow more distinct so we can make it maybe red. And there you go. Let's make that a little bit smaller. Ooh, it's connected. All right, so that was that first part. So the second part, we want the ama, the ava, and the pualu from the zooplankton. Oops. Yeah, let's see. So let's spread out these three. It's gonna get kind of crowded, but we're okay. And let's add 3 more arrows. There's 1. Let's copy paste. 2. Paste. And 3. Okay, not bad. Right? And then so you just want to make sure that you get all the connections and stuff like that. You can do the rest yourself. Here's the moray eel, here's the limu, so I'll put the limu down here, and the crabs. Don't forget, your decomposer should be a circle, so you can make a big circle shape, circle. Make a big circle around everything, because everything is going to die. Let's try it one more time. There you go. Alright, make sure it's transparent. Thicken it up. Okay, and then let's put the crab. No, why can't I get the crab? Alright, the crab. Well, the crab dies too, but you know, we can put them out here. Alright, and then we can draw an arrow to the crab, like that. Alright, so obviously I didn't finish all of this, so you're gonna have to finish it yourself and submit it. So that will be good practice for this week. Okay, so email me if you have any questions. Submit this when you're done. Tomorrow we'll be back and we'll talk about the food pyramid. Okay, bye.